this podcast, and I am here with Dr. Caitlin and Dr. Sonia, and I'm just going to let you fill you in on something. We are actually super fired up today because we had an amazing interview last week with Scylla about homeopathy and the power of homeopathy, and we did that interview on Monday, and then I think it was pretty much Tuesday or Wednesday, the FDA came out and said that they are now officially making the homeopathy illegal. And the reason they're doing it is because it falls under the headline of think GRAS, generally recognized as safe, and that it didn't meet the requirements of this particular headline. So we really want to address what the heck does GRAS mean, and what is the FDA doing for us, and how do we get around this? Because what we're hoping you'll see by the end of this podcast is that the FDA is not on our side. They are more interested in dollars than they are interested in overall health or safety of health. So there's a lot to talk about. So why don't we start, Dr. Caitlin, why don't we start with you? You want to talk about, one of the crusaders with this has been Robin O'Brien, and she has an amazing TED Talk, and we need to get her on this podcast, by the way. She would be really interview.
Yeah,
don't you guys
absolutely.
think? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to start, Dr. Caitlin, and talk about what did she do? What has she brought to the forefront? And what are we learning about the FDA's official term GRAS, generally recognized as safe?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we all assume or would hope that the FDA is on our side, right? They're there to protect the public, make the best options available to us and tell us really what's happening so that we don't have to go and read all the research, because honestly, the research is, one, hard to read, two, it's hard to find, and three, it's very much skewed. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the wonderful things about Robin O'Brien was she's not a medical doctor. She's nothing of the sort. And it wasn't until her daughter, her young daughter, developed food allergies. And she was totally blown away. Like, what do you mean food allergies? Like, how could kids have sensitivities to food? Like, what is this? And she really broke it down into some amazing points. And ultimately, a food allergy, even a sensitivity, is your immune system reacting to the protein in food. And why all of a sudden, from 1996 on, have we had a doubling of peanut allergies? And 1 in 17 kids under the age of 3 now have a food allergy. Since the 90s, there has been a 265% increase in child hospitalizations due to food sensitivities and allergies. Like, what?
Right.
And so those are just some of the numbers that she spewed out. And I was blown away because I didn't even know that it was that significant, but it's crazy to realize this. Sonia, what is it that you found listening to her? Because she really is fascinating. Everybody should go and download that TED Talk.
Yeah, she's amazing. I've heard her a few times, and every time it's when she brings out those stats, and what you mentioned earlier was so important. She's not a medical doctor. She's not in the health profession, so she can come at it from a very different perspective. So we can look at the numbers, and we can look at the financial gains that the food industry actually makes from changing our food supply. And that's what really struck me, and especially with her story with her kids. As a mom, you want to do everything and anything to protect them, right? So she worked on that aspect of being a mom and just ran with it. And, when you look at the schools today, even enrolling our kids into school, there's always somebody in the class that has a deadly allergy of some sort. Right. So it's really changing the way we're feeding our children. And I think the unfortunate thing is people just assume that, it's just something that just happened. But now when we look at the numbers and we look at what's actually happening to our food supply, it was something that was so preventable. So when she was talking about milk, right, at the end of the TED Talk, and saying, how many sippy cups have I filled with milk? How many times have I poured it over a bowl of cereal? And this is a typical day in a household. But nobody was told that these cows are getting these modified proteins injected into them and their DNA is getting modified because of that, and they are getting sick.
Yes.
You know,
that was the thing that totally blew me away is what? We're still drinking the milk from these cows that are sick?
Yeah, I mean, they're getting ovarian cysts, they're getting mastitis, they're getting all these hormonal issues. So their solution to that, okay, now let's give the cow some antibiotics. So now not only are you drinking that genetically modified protein, you're also drinking the antibiotics that was given to the cow.
And it's actually not from just one cow. That's actually, when you drink a glass of milk, it's coming from like hundreds of different cows.
Yeah.
Like that's scary when you think about it. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and when you talked about some of the things that these cows are getting, right? The mastitis and the ovarian cysts and the lethargy, and these are all things that humans are getting that are on the uprise now. And it's crazy because milk is one of the highest food sensitivities, allergies out there. And we really got to figure out what are we doing to these poor animals, first off, because it's inhumane. Yeah. But secondly, it's really affecting us.
Yeah. And the other reminder when she spoke about corn being classified as an insecticide because it is spraying its own insecticide to protect itself. So imagine that, you know, when you have this information, it's like what she said, you can't unlearn it. Like, why on earth would we want to put that in our bodies knowing what that can do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that, you know, I've got she's no longer with us, but I had a good friend. She was a patient of mine who came into me after she had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and they had immediately diagnosed her. They had immediately done radiation chemo all before they even taught her food and how she even got cancer in the first place. So when she came to my office, the very first thing I said to her was, hey, do you know how to read a label? Like, you know, there's certain ingredients you need to look out for. And I've told you guys the story before because it always hit me in like how the public like thinks is she said, Mindy, are you telling me that if they put something in Safeway, it isn't safe? And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm telling you. Like, it was mind bending for her to think that there would be foods that would be approved by the FDA that would go on our shelves that would be cancer causing, and we allow that to happen. Like, that's insane to me.
The thing about breast cancer, this is what blew my mind. So 1 out of 8 women are gonna get breast cancer, and they found that 1 out of 10 of those women have the genetic factor, which means 9 out of 10 women with breast cancer, it's environmentally induced.
Yeah, it's preventable.
Like, what are we doing that's causing women to get breast cancer? 1 out of 8.
Right.
Yeah. Well, if a cow go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was just saying, well, you know, if a cow can get those hormonal imbalances from that, imagine we're not just ingesting this once in a while. It's a daily thing. And we're not just getting it from the cow. Now we're getting it from the pesticides that are getting sprayed too. So of course our hormonal system is it's gonna wreak havoc. Our body is always trying to protect itself. It's all about survival.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's not just the milk, it is in the meat too. So when we're eating the meat that have been injected, that's one of the reasons why kids, like little girls, are menstruating so early now and developing breasts, and it's all hormonal, and we got to look, what are we doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think a really good starting point to this conversation too is as people are listening to us is just to understand. I think that's the most mind-bending piece of this is that the FDA has many motives for approving a food. And so just because it's on your shelf at your supermarket doesn't mean that it's been approved to be healthy. I think that has to be like a starting point here. That unfortunate and as sad as it is, we have to understand that the way that it has our system is set up, it's all run according to profits. And I mean, I know you two ladies believe this too, but that's the same thing with the CDC. You know, it's the same issue we have there, is that the people working within the CDC have pressure to make drugs to go to market fast because it's money. And it's the same thing with the FDA. So I think that's a great starting place. Go ahead, Caitlin. You look like you're ready to jump in.
Well, it's not that the FDA and these food industries can't change what they're doing, because a lot of the stuff that we mentioned, like the corn and the genetically modified soy and the milk, you know, countries that completely have banned those things, Kraft, Coca-Cola, all these companies are still figuring out how to change their ingredients so that it is able to be exported to these other countries. So if they can do it for other countries, why aren't we demanding that they do it for us?
Yeah, a perfect example of that is Kraft mac and cheese. Here, you're going to get yellow number 5 and 6. If you go to Europe, you're getting paprika as the color.
Oh,
so, and that's the same company. Yeah, so if they can do it there, they can definitely do it in North America. But yeah, it's like what you said, we have to inform ourselves and rise up to that. Like, why? Like, what is the big why behind all of that?
That's the thing that makes me the most mad. It's like these companies are doing it for other countries, yet we don't have the standards here, which is why we're the sickest country in the world too.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was really eye-opening too when she was showing the graphs of cancer, where the US is, I can't remember exactly what the stat was, but it was way ahead of any other country in the world.
Yeah, she said too that for individuals that move from another country to the United States, she used the example Japan, when somebody moves from Japan to the States, they have a 4-fold increase at developing cancer, or the likelihood of developing cancer, living in the United States.
Well, I've seen this in our Indian community. You know, they try to eat the way they did when they lived back in India, and they come here and now heart disease, diabetes, cancer, all these things that they weren't dealing with back then, where they were living and eating a certain way and eating from the land. And now all of a sudden here, they're having all these issues.
So, okay, so let's move into some kind of idea of how do you know, what are some protective ideas on how to minimize your exposure to these toxins? Because I really think that we need solutions on how do you go about protecting yourself. And for me, I can tell you probably one of the most important health tips I ever gave my kids was how to read a nutrition label. I can't even imagine, and it blows my mind that adults don't even know how to read a nutrition label. They don't even know to look at the nutrition label. So maybe we should start with the nutrition label and like, where do you look? What are code that words that might get you thinking that you're eating one of these harmful chemicals?
Yeah. Well, anything that says color number, you put that right back down, right? Whether it's color 40, whatever it is, red number this, yellow number this, that is something you just do not want to ingest.
It's not worth it.
Clear carcinogen. It is not worth it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you guys go to the ingredients first? Is that the first place you look?
Yeah.
Flip that box or whatever around, and I'm trying to decipher what did they put in here to figure out how is my body going to react. And when we're talking about this, we're not just talking about the calories and the fat content and the sugar content. That stuff, although albeit important, it's more of the ingredients that were used in it. So one of the first things for me, especially if I'm picking up a can, which I really don't do much canned stuff, is to make sure like my canned coconut milk comes from a BPA-free can.
Yeah. Did you see there was also a recent article that 99% of water that we're drinking out of these plastic bottles have actually BPA detected in the water?
Yeah.
Not like 99%. How many times? I mean, we all were together on the beach that day. We all picked up a bottle of plastic water. It's crazy. So yes, the cans, I agree. Like looking at the label, looking at the can, trying to search for things where I also look for keywords like BPA free and organic. Like I look on the front for little reminders that this person actually cared enough to maybe put it on the front of the box or can.
And the oils, right? Looking at what oils they're using in their product as well. Because, you know, with companies, they're very smart when it comes to marketing. So they could put down natural flavors or... let's actually talk about natural flavors. I think that's a good one that is actually put there as code
to put anything in there that they do not want to label, put on the label. It has under a certain percentage. So it can't be an extreme amount, but it can still be a little bit. They can put anything in there. MSG. A lot of times they put MSG under natural flavors.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different names for MSG now. And so what I'll do is after this podcast, I will type it up underneath our Facebook page, our group page, and tell you guys all of the code names for MSG. But that means you got to come find us on Facebook and join our closed member group.
Join our group. Yeah. Lots of good information.
It's crazy. MSG, they still use it, even though it doesn't say MSG. It's possibly still in there.
Yeah. And also on the front
no, go ahead, Sonia.
I was just going to say, they could say organic, right, at the front too. You also don't know what the guidelines are for that company and how they're labeled organic. I even know the difference between US and Canada is actually slightly different too, where Canada's a bit stricter with their guidelines in order for a company to be labeled organic. And they could have like 1 or 2 ingredients in there that are organic, and the rest of them don't need to be, and still label it as organic. So read the fine print.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. So, okay, so let's create a system here so that I want people to leave this episode and be like, okay, I need to look for this, and this. So, I think you can look on the front, and you can, that's a good start, like look and be like, do they have any code words like GMO, this is not, GMO free, or USDA organic, which is, to me, USDA organic is the best because that means it has to be free of GMOs and it has to be free of pesticides. So that's usually my first choice. I do now look for BPA free because the containers can have that. Then I flip it over and I go straight to the ingredient list. And my first question to myself is, do I understand everything in here? Do I know what all of this is? Is that kind of what you guys do as well?
Yeah, if I don't know something, it's not worth it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I'm looking,
I was just going to say, there's times where I read a word and I'm like, even with my chemistry background, I'm like, I don't know what this is. So I'm just going to put it down. It's not worth it.
Yeah, right. And I think that's actually a really good point, is if you don't know, like when in doubt, put it back.
Put it down. Yeah.
Like put it down, because you just don't know what over and over and over what you're eating. Yeah. So I loved what you said. Anything that says color, put it down. Like that, to me, that's a code word. Anything that has an ose in it, like it ends in like dextrose, fructose, then that's a sugar.
Corn syrup.
Corn syrup. Okay, so anything corn-based in general could be highly genetically modified.
Yeah.
So
or soybean. Anything soy, I put that down too.
Soybean. Yep. Okay, so soybean, that's great, because that's, you want to talk, Caitlin, a little bit about soybean and why, and breast cancer and estrogen and all that connection?
Oh my gosh. Well, so soy is also top 8 list of food allergies. And what happened was farmers started to genetically modify them. And that's what we feed a lot of our animals, right? Crops to fatten them up, that kind of stuff. But the problem is soy is an estrogen disruptor. So we can definitely throw our hormones off, especially with the GMO soy-based foods. And they put soy in everything. So it could be like soy lecithin, soybean oil, anything soy. I just go, not doing it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because it was a good food, right? And because of its phytoestrogen properties, it would actually help women in menopause. It can actually be helpful, but what they've done to it is with the genetic modification and the overconsumption of it, it's wreaking havoc. The way someone explained it to me once, if you think of a parking lot and you have estrogen receptors there, soy comes in and it parks itself in those parking spaces, not allowing your true estrogen to actually find the receptor and do the work it actually needs to do.
Right. Yeah. I love the analogy too, like the lock and key model. So those old cars that used to have 2 different keys, right? It can fit in the lock, but if it doesn't turn it on, it's just taking the spot of the key that actually fits in and does the job. And so that's one of the biggest reasons why I don't touch anything with soy. And the big thing, women, it's in chocolate. It is in so much chocolate.
Yeah.
But a great brand is Theo's. There's absolutely no soy, no soy lecithin, nothing.
Great.
So, yep, the dark chocolate, almond, and sea salt. That's my favorite. There you go.
Is chocolate really high in polyphenols, which feeds your good bacteria in your gut. So if you get chocolate right, chocolate can actually be really a health food if you get it right.
It's a superfood.
So, yeah.
That's the key. You gotta read the label.
So, well, but that's about everything, right? Like food is medicine, or food can be the quickest path to death. And the same food, like this is what it's so important about people understanding this, is that you can use food to heal yourself. And if you're not conscious, food can actually cause disease. And I think that concept, most Americans have no idea. Beliefs on this, genes that are causing disease. If we just start with the concept of food, I think that's so important for people to get. So let's go through more things
I was going to say the easiest thing is just to choose food that doesn't have labels. An apple's not going to have a label. A celery stick doesn't have a label. It's celery. And then taking the next step further is making sure that produce is organic. Simplify your life. Don't go in the grocery store and go to the middle aisles. Go around the edges where the produce is, and possibly the good meats and stuff like that. Don't go in between. Don't get sucked in to the marketing.
Right. Yeah, and so let's go there for a second. But before we leave the label, anything else like nitrates? That's another one that BHT, BST. I'm trying to think I look at the oils, anything else you guys are key, code, I see them right away and I just put them right down.
Canola
oil. That's huge. High fructose corn syrup, canola oil, cane sugar. I think, Caitlin, you're onto something. When you do the MSG ones, we should list off all the other ones too on the Facebook group.
Sure.
These are the things to watch out for, and also other possible names that they could be using as code too.
Yeah. The other thing too is there's a lot of people that need to be gluten-free now because of those food sensitivities due to how the crops are genetically modified. And there's so many different names for gluten that they can get away with.
Oh my God.
It's just ridiculous. It drives me nuts because nobody in their right mind, I don't even have all of the names for everything memorized. So it's one of those things, if I don't know what it is, I just
put it down.
I can find something else, or I can do without.
Another big one today is all the gums that they're using as thickeners. So even coconut milk, we're big on that with our full fat coconut milk, but Earth's Choice actually makes one without the guar gum now.
Nice.
So that's the one that I always go for.
I went to making my own cashew milk because it's
and
you don't need a bag. You just soak it and throw it in a high-speed blender, and it just blends up into nothing. It's the easiest thing in the world. So that way I don't have to worry about the gums and the added stuff, like the added fake vitamin D and
anything added in is never a good sign. You think they're doing you a favor, but if they added it in, it probably means because it was depleted somehow in the process. So, have you guys tried any of the Food Scores app or the Healthy Living, the EWG app on your phone?
No,
I've used to tell patients, I used it a little bit, but you can scan products and it'll tell you what's in it that might be harmful.
Great.
Yeah.
I found though that it doesn't scan all of them, just like the beauty products. It's kind of hit or miss.
It definitely needs more people contributing to it. The more people add in, then it will, but it can get you in the ballpark, especially for if people are listening to this and they're overwhelmed. It's a good place to start and just start scanning it and kind of get an idea of what you're looking at. So I like that as a tool.
Yeah.
But okay, let's talk about no labeled food. I think you're right, Sonia. Absolutely, your best bet is food without a label. And yet, even within that, there's things we have to look out for.
Uh-huh.
So I love your idea, like stay around the outside of the supermarket. I know for us, we love shopping at farmers markets. And part of that is because I want to talk to the farmer. I remember I bought some eggs from one of the farmers at our farmers market, and he brought out a picture of the chickens, and he showed me how his chickens run around and how much room they had. And I was like, he was so passionate about it. And I thought, okay, yeah, you're who I want to buy food from.
Yeah, really knowing the food sources. And, one thing that Robin O'Brien really pointed out that was key is, all the stuff that the farmers have to go through to get that organic label. And because one of the, I guess, what's it called?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I'm tired again today. But one of the objections that people have to eating organic is how expensive it is.
Yep.
And so it's because the farmers have to go through all this labeling and, applying for organic status and all these things. So they have to up the price when they're selling them. Whereas if you look at the conventional stuff that's getting sprayed, they don't have to go through any of that. They get marketing support. They get all this support from the government, whereas the organic farms don't. So I think it's key, like you said, going to the farmers market, finding out who you're getting the food from, and supporting them, because we have control as consumers on demand. And that way the corporations have to match our demand. So we have that power and that control.
Yep.
The other thing that that she mentioned too, which is very, very true and applicable, is the non-organic farmers get subsidized from our tax-paying dollar.
Right. Oh my God. It's crazy, right?
They're getting paid to spray our food and change the DNA of our food. Yet the farmers that are doing it the way that it should be done and the way that it used to be done have to pay fees to prove it, and then to label it, and then to market it. And it's just insane, all of these hoops that organic farmers have to go through in order to show that their stuff is organic. It's totally backwards in my mind. Like,
it's totally backwards.
You want to spray your stuff, you should show us and pay us what you're spraying and what it's going to do and what's in it. And I just don't get it. Well, I do get it. It's a business.
Yeah.
And I like what you said, Sonia, about how people don't want to pay the extra money. Yeah. And I think one thing that's really important for people to look at is the long-term version of of their health. This is a long-term game. So yes, today, on that day that you actually buy the organic food, it may be more money out of your pocket, but over the next couple of months, the next couple of years, how much are you going to pay in co-pays to the doctor? How much are you going to pay in pain medication and
taking time off
medication? Time off of work, suffering. There's so many hidden costs to eating cheaply that people are just not aware of. So, and I know you guys are the same way, but in our world, like, quality of food is absolutely top, a core value of our family and at the top of our list. Yeah. We will actually buy higher quality food than spend money on a family vacation. That's how important that is for us. Like, if we had to choose between those two, that's what we would choose: food every single day. I
will take both, because I think vacation is also very important. But I will not blink on both.
We choose a higher quality food too, but we don't do the presents and things like that for one another. It's, the food that we're eating is so much more important, because unless we're fasting, we eat every day, or we're drinking something every day. And I hope my in-laws don't get mad at me for sharing this, because I think my mother-in-law listens to this podcast. They used to make comments about how much money I would spend on the food that Niles and I eat. And, finally I sat down with them and I said, I understand what you're saying. However, we have no medical bills except health insurance, which is required, which I would drop in a heartbeat if I could, but we don't need to go there today. But when we looked at what they were spending, because they were both on very expensive drugs to try and manage autoimmune conditions, they were paying by far double, triple, quadruple what I was paying when they added up their food and their medications compared to my food. And when we changed them around and they were able to get off of those really expensive drugs, they're actually spending way less on really good food because they're not spending the money on those expensive medications now. And they're happier. They don't have like the psoriasis and all these other things going on. So they're more comfortable being in certain outfits, and you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But you gotta look at what is more important to you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
huge.
that's huge. And I think that's why when you said that, Sonia, I was like, okay, we have to dispel this myth, because I get people that will say, oh, my food bill went up as soon as they started to read labels and go to the things that were, organic. They're like, my food bill went up and my husband's complaining about that. And yet, did your husband complain about the cost of your family vacation, or did your husband complain, about your Starbucks habit that you do every single day? Like it's a value. And I mean that only with love, but I think that we do not value good food enough. And if we started to value good food and we started to look at the farmer who was willing to go the extra mile to become an organic farmer, and we thank him and we support him and we move our dollars that direction, that's in my opinion, the only way we're going to stop something as big as the FDA is when we start valuing long-term benefit of good food, of high quality food.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, the only time that my food bill is a little more expensive is when I'm buying like condiments, like the organic sugar-free ketchups and, because I'm too lazy to make it right now, so then my food bill will be a little bit more expensive. But when you're buying, the produce with the meat, and it's really not, it's not that expensive. It maybe is a little bit more, but when you take into consideration everything else that you're going to gain from it, at least for me, the value's there.
Yeah, take a moment and sit down with your partner and your family and write the list of your values. Like, what is it that we value for ourselves? And I would say a lot of people will write down health and quality of life as part of their, at least their top 5. And in order to get that, you have to look at, okay, what are the changes we need to make? I remember listening to Oprah once, and she was talking about, like, the bucket. We use the bucket analogy when it comes to health, and she was looking at it as more financial and looking at what's actually feeding our bucket and what's putting holes in it. These trips that we do to Starbucks, these purchases that we make that we don't need but want. I'm not saying that buying things is a bad thing when you want it for yourself. I think you should treat yourself for sure. But if you're trying to justify not spending on food that's going to heal you and going to nourish you, then you have to look at what is important, what's putting holes in my bucket, and what's actually like making it more nourished and what's going to make it thrive.
I have another thing that I hear, and maybe you guys can comment on, how do you handle this type of, it's not necessarily a complaint, but concern with not buying the pre-made food? Is it's really time consuming, not just more expensive, but time consuming to eat healthy. What do you guys say about that?
I disagree.
Get that. I don't get that.
I make meals in 20 minutes sometimes. Yeah. Get an Instapot, right? It's all the rage right now if you need to. But yes, definitely there's some meals that you want to nourish a bit more, and there's a process, but then you enjoy it because you're digesting as you're making the meal. So there may be a day where you spend a bit more time, but if you're that busy woman trying to do it all and you feel like you don't have time, there are meals that you can make between 20 to 30 minutes. And that's not a lot of time.
So we just started doing a meal that I've been really enjoying. I just have to figure out the plastic part of it. Is we ordered from the Green Chef, and we ordered a keto meal, and it comes to us on Wednesdays, and it's kind of like Blue Apron, where it just has like, everything's sectioned out, and Wednesdays happens to be the day that I don't get home until 7. My husband doesn't get home till like 7:30 after soccer practice with my son. So there's just always a scramble for dinner. So I was like, okay, let's try this. And it's really an interesting way to go. It comes with a menu and a step-by-step, and it's quick, super quick. You just pull the little pieces out of the refrigerator and your meal is done in a half hour, maybe at the most. So if you're lacking creativity or you're really pressed for time, we're starting to lean on that kind of stuff. My only complaint on it is it's packed in a lot of plastic. Right. But I wrote the company and they said it's a number 4 plastic, which is the safest plastic. And they have a bunch of different ways of recycling as well. So
here in Vancouver too, we have tons of places like that, and like home delivery and all of that too. Already pre-made food. You can customize what kind of diet you're on. So there's options out there. I think it's just a matter of finding them.
Mm-hmm. On the plastic thing, a quick, easy trigger in my brain to know which ones are good and which ones aren't. It's 673, not for me.
So
I
like
it says 6, 7, or 3, don't do it. It's not worth it. They've been shown to be harmful. What I was going to say, my easy, quick go-to thing is one of two. It's either a big like saute pan with like every vegetable that I still have in my crisper that, is going bad that needs to be used. Throw that in with some kind of sauce, whether it be an organic tomato sauce or I'll make a pesto sauce, and then may or may not have some kind of protein, whether it be chicken or ground elk or whatever I have, and throw it in. 15 minutes. Or my go-to is a big salad.
Yeah, salad's my go-to. That can be done in 10 minutes. Yeah. I think it's another good thing for the Facebook group. I think we should post some examples of our dishes and how long it took us to make.
Yeah, we've been getting requests.
I find recipes. It's like creativity. You just need to see what other people are doing. You need more to spark more ideas. So,
absolutely.
And I think, when you go back and you look at the food, something you can, you just pull it out and stick it in the microwave. Like, you can't beat that time, but you're literally eating dead food. Like you're killing yourself with that. So if we can help,
I'll show you an example right now. This is what I'm having for lunch today.
Oh, nice.
From a company called Be Fresh just down the street. And they have the salads there already. And then you can choose the dressing. Then they toss it for you. You can add avocado. You can add whatever you want. And it's all organic, made right in front of you. So tons of options.
Did you walk down there and get it and then walk back, or do they DoorDash or?
They do DoorDash if you want to, but I walk down. It's 2 blocks. Yeah.
Right. You got to get out into the sun and see it that way. So.
So if you guys want those recipes, again, you got to find us on Facebook, our closed group. That's where we're going to post it. And the other thing is, make sure you guys tell us what kind of recipes are you looking for? Are you looking for vegetarian? Are you looking for keto? Are you looking for paleo? Are you looking for whatever? And we can give you all sorts of things. Like last night, I made grain-free crab cakes that were amazing.
Oh, you should have posted that.
I did take a picture.
Oh, good.
Good. The picture is with a bite out of one of the crab cakes already. Because I was like, oh, this is way too good. But it really doesn't take that long. Like sometimes you have to wait a little bit because you got to let it sit or set. But creativity and having different ways to do it. Come find us. Let us know what you're looking for, and we'll happily help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, so let's summarize this. So, first thing is that the FDA is not your friend. Let's start there. And I really hope I don't know what will happen with homeopathy, but it just makes me sad that there's so much greed in the FDA.
They're scared.
Yeah,
they're scared because people are learning more about this and they're choosing to go the natural way, the less harmful way, the less side effect way, which then means medical profit shares start to go down. And that's not what they want.
Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Next will be supplements. Don't worry. That already
started. That started in 2008.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, Bill
Wow.
C-51, they were trying to pass it in 2008 in Canada. It didn't pass, and then they passed another one just a little while ago that's gained a bit more control over the supplements. It's happening.
Ugh. Well,
And,
honestly,
you know, on that, no, on that level, they also want to give the control back to the medical doctors. So they want to tell them, you know, hey, it can only be prescribed. Like I'm surprised they didn't do that with homeopathy. And then you listen to someone like Scylla, who is like, years did she study, and then they're going to teach homeopathy as a weekend course to medical doctors and give them access to it. I feel the same thing about supplements. I would never take nutrition advice from somebody who took a weekend course. There's just no way.
Yeah, we were lucky. We have pharmaceutical rights here in BC as naturopathic physicians. So if that were to happen, we can still prescribe the supplements. But I think that's why our association was working towards that, because they could see that this was coming down the pipeline.
It's so crazy. And honestly, when we were moving, I was wanting to move back up into Canada, my homeland, but looking at getting certain supplements across the border, like you're dealing with, Sonia, it's hard because of the difference between governments and what they allow in different amounts. And so we sat back. Maybe I'm
One
still
day.
thinking that we'll move up there one day.
There's space here available for you. Ready and waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's only a 2-hour drive from
That's right.
for me, but no, the FDA and
okay, so the FDA is not your friend, and you start reading ingredient labels like on everything, and look for those code words, and then better yet, switch to fresh foods that's perishable, food on the outside of your market, you know, and even best yet, go to your local farmers market. And we do that on Sundays. We go to our farmers market, and I would say 80% of our food comes from there. And that's our it's like a ritual. And the kids know we're going, and we try to buy, that's where we'll buy some of the more, like there's a gluten-free pastry guy there. So, you know, just to keep it fun, I'll buy a few of those for the kids, just to make it like an outing that everybody wants to be a part of.
Yeah, a treat.
So a treat, right? So
I seriously look forward to my farmers market days. Like I wake up super early on Saturday to go to the farmers market to get the best pick of the fish and whatever else that I'm getting.
I'm a sucker for those things because of all the little stalls, like the soaps and all these things. It's just fun.
Yeah, super fun. Yeah, we have a raw milk like van, and the guy's always blasting like 70s and 80s music out, and he became like our friend. And then we know him on a first name basis, and like 2 weeks ago he left his job. And I was like, oh my God, like, I feel like so sad. The raw milk guy's not there anymore. But he became part of our family. It was like, oh my God, he gives me raw milk every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you don't have the farmer's market, so you don't live in California and get the farmer's market all year round, I'm sure you can find like a co-op, or Costco even has good options.
Yeah.
You really can make a difference on a budget. You can still buy organic. Costco has amazing options.
Even Target, you know, Target and Walgreens, all those places are starting to, they're seeing that everybody's going to Whole Foods, and that people are starting to, again, this is where voting with your dollars matters. And so they started carrying, they have a ton of like really nice name brands. You can, at my local Target, you get kombucha. You can get the Synergy kombucha there. So even Target, those places are, you just gotta look once you open your eyes. And if you can buy it there, you're sending a message to the store saying, I care about this, bring me more of it.
Bring more. Yeah, absolutely. In Canada, we have the Real Canadian Superstore, which has a lot of organic now, I've noticed over the years.
I was surprised when I moved where I was
That's
like,
awesome.
like nowhere that I would ever buy food. And now when I come back, I'm like, oh, they actually have really good options.
They do. Yeah, great options. So they're there. The options are there.
I remember that about Costco. I was like, oh my God, Costco has organic, and now it has so much organic that you know we can do a pretty big shop there.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive.
So. Yeah.
Cool.
So it's
okay. I think hopefully, you know, people always ask me what my number one food recommendation is, and it truly is to stop eating fake food. So I think that hopefully this gave people an idea and really help people create a paradigm shift, because just because they put it on the shelf doesn't mean you're going to thrive with it. I really think that's such an important concept. So awesome. So we have a lot of lists to post in the group.
We do.
We do. Yes, we will get on it.
So that
find us
means,
again.
though,
Yes.
that subscribe to the YouTube channel if you like what you hear. Subscribe to the iTunes channel so that you can get the updates. Join us on Facebook, and that way you can also share with us what information that you're looking for.
Yes.
And that way we can really customize this to what you want. We're talking about things that we find interesting and passionate about, but we obviously want it to be catered to you guys. So find us, like us, share it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
And please post in the group. Let us know what you want to hear, because I think we totally agree. This is for you. So reach out. We're here to get you the information that you so desperately need. So, okay, everybody. Absolutely. Have an awesome day.
You too.
Bye.